You've tuned into Bellingham Podcast Media Tech for the week of March 12, 2017, episode 31. From the city of subdued excitement that won't get rid of winter, I'm AJ Barce.
And from the location of the Northwest that stands frozen in time, I'm Chris Powell. On this episode, guess what's turning 10 this year? The iPhone. No, we won't be having smartphone cake and iOS ice cream, but we'll be taking a look back at life when it debuted in 2007. Great Scott Marty, it's time to generate 1.21 gigawatts of podcasting electricity. We're going back to the future, right here on BPM Tech.
All I can follow that up with is time to do the time warp again.
Exactly. How are you, AJ?
I'm doing. I have a voice. Kind of.
Welcome back, voice. It goes with the tasty drink that I'm watching you sip on.
Oh, dude, I think I have gone through an entire box of Red Rose tea in like 3 weeks.
And for those Red Rose people out there, yes, AJ is up for endorsements for tea. Anyway,
how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing fine. It's we're in March, and yeah, still waiting for stuff to defrost and get up to 50-degree highs. Can we please get a little bit of temperate weather in the Northwest and the Northwest, please?
Dude, I am right there with you. Like we did the last episode at my house when we did the coffee episode. And we said, like, we're done. Like, winter, that's it. That's it. And then that weekend, I swear the season of winter was drunk and it needs to go home.
Yes.
In 1 day's time, we had warm spring, and then winter, and then freezing temperatures, and then deluge rain, and then blue sky.
We had 5 seasons in 2 hours.
5 seasons in 12 hours, and it was nuts.
Exactly.
I'm so done. I'm over it.
Well, last summer we were doing on location podcasts outdoors where the weather's beautiful. We're not quite there yet. I'm pining for those days when we can go outside and you can hear wind in our microphones.
Yes, and wind in our sails. Me too, dude.
That's right. All right, so it's time for the big show.
Yeah, so this is a cool episode. So you and I have talked off the mic, and there's a bunch of hootenanny going on in the tech sphere because there's this widget called the iPhone that it debuted about this time, not last year, 10 years ago.
That's right.
And unlike, full disclosure, Chris Powell and I, we see all of the headlines and the rumor mills of what the 10th anniversary iPhone's about. If you're thinking that this show is going to be that, you might as well skip this episode because we don't care.
We're not a podcast that talks about news,
rumors,
or breaking everything, whatever.
Don't care.
The only thing we break is our equipment.
Yeah, like it's at this point, it's all speculation. Nobody knows. Matter of fact, if you want to know some information about the next iPhone, what I'd like you to do, go to Toys R Us, go to the game section, look for the Magic 8 Ball. It's about $12.95. Buy one, shake it. And whatever it tells you is probably close to what is going to be in the pipes from Tim Cook.
I'll take that into consideration, most definitely.
But so we decided to do a different take in traditional BPM style, and we decided to look at what has happened in the last 10 years. Chris and I had thought about it. We were thinking about what were we doing before the iPhone. And so this episode is kind of interesting because Chris and I usually do show notes together. We've done blind show notes. So I don't know what Chris has got. Chris doesn't know what I have. And we're going to talk about Bellingham. We're going to talk about tech in the last 10 years. And
maybe in some cases, we're going to talk about where we were 10 years ago. Think back, ladies and gentlemen. Where were you in 2007? That's 10 years ago. Oh, my goodness, we're getting old.
Yeah, right.
Right. So do we want to do Bellingham or tech first, or us?
Well, when it comes to the Bellingham thing, I hadn't even hit the Bellingham scene yet. So when the iPhone came out in March, I was still actually in Kitsap County. I was still teaching. And so I wouldn't make my debut until summer of that same year. So I don't have much to contribute. I mean, I remember when I first came up here to Bellingham, Nimbus was at the top of the tower.
Yes, top of the towers. Yes.
Woods Flatiron, that wasn't a thing.
Nope.
And Boulevard Park hadn't been remade yet.
They didn't have their upgrades. That is correct. So yes, that was kind of like the dark ages.
You could call it that.
I have a couple other things.
Okay,
because as we're preparing, I did some research.
Yes,
and when Chris does research, stuff gets learned.
He looks like a gumshoe from the 1930s. He has this fedora and then like the cigar, and he's like, "Here's looking at you, kid." And he starts looking at information. No, I'm just kidding.
Just a fact, ma'am. I got just a facts for you. Back in 2007, the Canadian dollar was at its peak high in the United States in over 30 years. So the last time the Canadian dollar was as high as it was in comparison with the American dollar in 2007 was in 1977. So back in 2007, before you were on Meridian Street, I was well aware of, and many people listening may be well aware of, the influx of British Columbia license plates into Whatcom County because things were so affordable.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing because as a result, Costco on Meridian Street, and I believe, and I don't have a webpage reference or I have firsthand
observational
anecdotal observational knowledge from a buddy of mine who works at Costco or worked at the Meridian Costco. In all of the Costcos in Costco land, in Costcoville, the Meridian Street Costco is the number one revenue generating Costco in the nation. And a lot of it has to do with our friends to the north. And I think back then, 10 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, do you remember the shortage of milk?
Oh, yeah.
That was back then. It was only 10 years ago that we had that started. Also, does the term interest-free home loans ring a bell?
Oh, you had to go there.
I had to go there. In 2007, the housing bubble started to deflate.
Yeah.
Did I catch one on your list?
Yeah, I had this note too. The median house price in Bellingham. Do you have that stat?
I don't have the stat.
Oh, so according to Zillow, anyway, the median house back in 2007 in Bellingham was $303,000. Okay, and that's according to Zillow. If you pull up the Chamber of Commerce, Bellingham Chamber of Commerce actually said that the median was closer to $260K. So it depends on whose stat you go off of, but still, good jump off of comparison.
So for us homeowners, those were wild times. And so how things have changed in 10 years. Mm-hmm. Did you have any other? Okay. There was an interesting announcement made in 2007, 10 years ago. Western Washington University's president, Karen Morse, announced her retirement in 2007.
I forgot about that.
She was going to retire in the following year, kind of a victory lap because she'd been there for a number of years. Back when I was a student at Western, she was the president.
Same here.
And in 2008, the new president at that time, Bruce Shepard, was selected. How we've grown in 10 years or changed in 10 years.
So yeah, and three WWU presidents now.
That's right. So I have one more that I noticed. Okay. Over in Sunnyland, the district in Sunnyland, there was a small store that opened up in 2007.
Is that the teriyaki shop?
Not quite. Trader Joe's made its debut in Sunnyland in 2007.
Wow.
And traffic on James Street has never been the same. So
never gone back.
This is the Wayback Machine, folks. Come along for the ride.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that because two resources that I wanted to throw out. One is the Wayback Machine, which is part of I think it's the archive.org project, isn't it?
I believe so.
So if you ever wanted to know like a website back in 2007, how it looked, you can go to the Wayback Machine and if you just Google that, it'll bring you to a website that actually goes and takes a living snapshot of any website that it's been cataloged. And so I did that for a few things. The other one I wanted to throw out as a web resource that I did for my stats was onthisday.com.
Oh, yes.
So if you go to onthisday.com and you put in the date and you put in the year that you want to know, it'll tell you nice little factoids of what happened on this day on a certain date.
That's always great for the statistic folks, or like those that want to spew the little coffee break factoids. That's
as they push up their bold glasses and like, did you know that?
That's right.
So I used the Wayback Machine because my first stat I wanted to throw out, because I am a photographer, of course I had to say what the state of the Pixel was back in 2007.
What were cameras like, digital cameras like in 10 years ago?
Yeah, so I had to use the Wayback Machine to pull up the Flickr because, little known fact, Flickr, for since it's like inception, Flickr has always tracked what cameras are tagged, because every time you take a photo, the hardware is tagged physically into the photograph. So they've always ran like what is the hottest cameras as used on Flickr for taking photos. So I did that. For 2007, now actually I should give it a basis of comparison. If you look at Flickr today, the hottest camera used to take photos on Flickr, do you know what it is?
I'm going to go with the Canon D something or whatever.
You would be wrong. It would be the iPhone 6.
The iPhone 6?
The iPhone 6.
Are you talking about like
all cameras? Because
in today's a decade ago.
No.
Okay.
So today, if you look at Flickr, the hottest phone that is being used on Flickr, or the top phone, I guess, is the iPhone 6, followed by the 6S.
Interesting.
Okay. If you keep going down, because they also break it down based off of brands, number 1 sits at the top at Apple. You have 2, which is Samsung. 3 is Canon. And that would be the Canon EOS 5D Mark III, the 6D, the 5D Mark II, a body that I had almost 10 years ago. And then we get into the Nikon, and then finally Sony wraps it up in number 5. If we look back in 2007, however, there was no iPhone. Smartphone, what? The closest thing you would have is a BlackBerry. Back in 2007, the top camera, rocking 8 megapixels, was the Rebel XT.
Made by Canon.
Made by Canon.
Okay, so I was kind of on that track.
You were on that track.
I just wasn't paying attention to you.
Yeah, and so I'll leave a link in the show notes, but I have a snapshot from the Wayback Machine of what Flickr said back in 2007 was the hot to trot cameras on the network. And the XT, followed by the Nikon D50. I think I used a D50 right around 2007. So, yeah, what do you got?
Well,
as your first one?
Since we're talking about Bellingham and life in Bellingham, we just want to let you know that you are tuned in to KMRE 102.3 FM Bellingham. Low power community radio. We got it. So anyway, what technology was around there? So sing along if you remember some of these terms. Second Life. Second Life was this new hotness that was out there.
That was 2007?
That was 2007.
Are you kidding?
I wouldn't kid you. I wouldn't
kid
you.
Did it debut, or was it just the hotness?
I think it was the hotness.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it started in 2006. But anyway.
Gotcha.
For you parents out there that were parents of youngsters in 2007, there was a website called Webkinz. Now, I know this one because our now teenager was a little munchkin back in the day.
Oh, how adorable!
Indeed, and so you gotta catch them all. It was a nice little online flash-based game via a web browser, and by playing games and watching ads, you get points to be able to buy stuff in the gift shop to outfit your Webkinz. And they had plush animals in stores and et cetera, et cetera.
The more I know.
Yes. As far as gaming consoles, did you do
yeah, I did gaming.
Okay, you take...
So getting on to gaming. Gaming was an interesting year because we had in 2005, the Xbox 360 was released. So we were in that generation, the 360. The PlayStation 3 was released in November of 2006. The GameCube died in 2007. It was discontinued by Nintendo.
In which we'll have a moment of silence for the GameCube.
And then on that, the PSP, I actually had the PSP 1000, which was the first version. That came out in 2005, but that E3 in 2007, the PSP 2000 was announced. It was a thinner version, and I believe it had a little bit more RAM in it.
Interesting. But you know what sold the most in 2007?
No, what sold the most?
The Nintendo Wii.
Oh, that thing.
Yes. So I did some research. I happened to see here's a headline. Nintendo Wii beat out PS3 and Xbox 360 in sales. I know AJ is going to be talking about games. I want to make sure we have that covered. So for those of you that have a Nintendo Wii, why you still have a Nintendo Wii?
Actually, I do have still a Nintendo Wii.
You've got it.
I have the old Nintendo Wii because there's 2 versions. I have the one that's actually backwards compatible that still plays the GameCube
Very
games.
good. All right, sounds good. You know what else debuted in 2007?
What?
Skype. Okay, fine. But in other happier news, do you know what else debuted from what I found? The Amazon Kindle.
Really? The first Kindle? The blocky Kindle?
The blocky Kindle.
Yeah.
I guess that's the code name, blocky.
I don't know. I mean, it was very...
Yes.
I like... Everybody knows that I have a soft spot for e-ink technology. And I remember when that came out, and it was a horrible thing. Like, the design was bad, it was clicky, it was clunky, but the idea of e-ink, man, that was so cool back then. And still is to me today.
These are the digital dwarfs. Clicky, clanky, blocky. These are the dwarfs that really
Pixel.
didn't. Snow White in 2017. That's
Yeah.
the type of dwarfs they're working with. All right. What else you got on your tech list?
Let's hit computers.
Well, shall we?
Oh, wow.
Go ahead.
So back in 2007, the MacBook came in two colors,
Oh, yes.
black and white.
Yes, that was a prime time for those that go on the dark side with their color palette.
Yep.
I was enjoying the black book.
Yep, I still have a black book. Unfortunately, it's not really working because it's 10 years old. Do you know what the specs were for a MacBook back then?
I'm going to say 2 gigabytes of RAM, probably a 200 gigabyte hard drive, and I've processing power, blah, 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 nerd. And it was a non-retina screen, probably 10, 20, no, maybe 1300 resolution. How off am I?
Actually, you're pretty close. The MacBooks back then were rocking a Intel Core 2 Duo.
Core 2 Duo, thank you very much.
So there was that was coming out of the. So you have the Core 2 and the Core 2 Duo, and the Duo got longer support than the original.
And nowadays, the Core 2 Duo is playing at the Holiday Inn lounge.
Yeah, that was a one. I think it was a 2.16 gigahertz Intel processor. So, I mean, back then, like, we already broken the gigahertz race. We've already broken the 2 gigahertz race. We're still kind of in that same thing, but now we're dealing with more cache on that chip. So now, back then, we had, we had 4 megabytes of shared on the chip level 2 cache.
On a Sesame
4
Seed
megs.
bun.
Yeah. And then we also had, obviously with the MacBook, it shipped with various flavors of RAM. But yes, you had 1, 2, and 4 gigs.
4 for the extra tasty price of what, $4,000?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
What I found more interesting about this was in 2007, do you know what the computer hotness was? What trend was really hopping in 2007? I forgot about this because it lasted like only 2 years.
Try me. What
Netbooks.
Oh, yes, the ASUS EEE, the small
The
books.
triple E,
yes.
and yeah, so netbooks was all the rage. HP came out with one. My wife, then girlfriend, had one. But so when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, how heavy was the average laptop back then? Do you remember?
Heavier than an iPad, I would imagine, or
Oh,
a tablet, naturally.
yeah.
But probably, let's go 1.5 pounds.
You're funny. So the MacBook that I just described, it was considered thin and light
Yes.
at a whopping 4 to 6 pounds.
Of course,
And now we rate laptops in like ounces.
in grams, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. Interesting.
Anyway, I thought that was really interesting. And that's why the netbooks got created, is because we wanted technology that was, again, we didn't have the iPhone. There was no touchscreen technology. So the response was, netbooks, let's get smaller laptops with lower processing. That'll work great, right?
And also that operating system for the MacBook back in 2007.
Oh, gee, I didn't look that up. It's like OS, I think that would be Snow Leopard or maybe...
Close. Leopard.
Leopard, okay.
See, AJ, you totally are the lock, and I wasn't going to try to like stump the band, but I knew you had it.
Yeah.
OS 10.5.
Yeah.
Back in 2007 was Leopard. Yeah, the operating system Apple Leopard, which was rather interesting.
On the Windows side.
On the Windows side, you've already done your checking on this one.
I'm guessing XP.
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Vista?
Vista.
Oh, I
in
couldn't know.
2007.
I didn't know.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris is getting a little misty-eyed.
I'm getting a little misty-eyed due to the amount of gainful employment I had fixing Microsoft software. Microsoft Office 2007 came out
Obviously.
for a paltry upgrade price of $239. So, and the big feature for Microsoft Office 2007 was the ribbon.
Ribbon.
Yes.
I know.
Some of you may recall the change from the typical icon location, which was very friendly for how many years, to the ribbon, because they had to shake things up. Because there was a small company in Cupertino that was gaining in popularity at the time, I believe. Also, and Windows Vista was a glorious operating system that some people leapfrogged from
did.
Windows XP to Windows 7. Along the lines of Microsoft products that came out in
Chris is
2007,
getting giddy.
the Microsoft Zune came out.
Oh, dude. Okay, so
Tell me you did not own one.
I did not. However, a friend of mine did, and we used it for like testing sound systems and stuff. It was pretty cool for the time. As much as I bag on the Zune now, like back then, it was pretty cool compared to the iPod options back then.
We're going to agree to disagree on that
That's
one.
good. You heard it here first.
And I'm glad you were able to at least give some hands-on experience, because I looked at that device and I came from the Nomad, the Creative Labs Nomad, I believe.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
which was
yeah.
a pre-iPod MP3 player.
They also made the Rio.
Yes.
And yeah.
And to be able to drag songs on, I thought that would be wonderful. And then I looked at the Zune and I'm like, too much DRM, too much control, too much lockdown. No thank. And the price tag, I forgot what it was, but anyway. So yeah, it was a banner year for Microsoft in technology. So what else you got?
Oh, I was just going to segue unless you have something else.
I have one more thing that came out in 2007. There was an annoying commercial that came out, and I don't really have the theme locked down, but it was Vonage. Vonage voice over IP.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, way back machine, Mr. Sherman.
I know the theme that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I would listen to these commercials, and people were like, "What's Vonage, Chris?" Because it's something to do with technology, and of course, anything involving technology, I had to know everything about. And the early days of voice over IP, in which many people who adopted it said, "Your call cannot be completed as dialed at this time. Please try again." Yes, the days of Vonage have long since passed, as we are in a current state of awesomeness in technology.
Everything's over IP.
Yes, exactly. But Vonage, 10 years ago, that was one of the big things in communications.
Interesting.
So that was what I was able to unearth or dig up in the time machine from 2007, a decade ago.
Wow. Okay, so to cap the show off, what I wanted to do, since we did this whole misty-eyed rundown, Mr. Powell, I would like to ask you personally.
Oh dear.
On this day-ish in 2007, what was your personal tech you had on you all the time? What were you rocking?
I think I had a desktop PC computer that I had built myself, or I assembled all the parts. I think I had a coworker buddy that helped me with like the motherboard and all that stuff. So I had a PC running Windows XP and probably a 14-inch square monitor. I think I had a BlackBerry Pearl at the time for my communications device, for my phone. I think I might have bought an iPod off of a coworker buddy of mine who always bought the new gear right out of the gates, and so I took the hand-me-downs. And so I think that was about it, if I could recall 10 years ago, from where I was at.
Cool.
So desktop, there was no iPad.
Right.
The days of laptops were fairly expensive.
I had a laptop.
What did you have?
I had a Compaq.
Oh my.
Oh yes, I had a Compaq.
With a Q.
Yes, with a Q. I had a Compaq laptop that I had dual booting, actually. I had Grub running on the background, so I could boot into XP for that handful of times I had to use Word, and then I would run Linux to do real work. Because I was a hardcore nerd at the time.
Course.
Super geek, right?
What do you mean was?
I was running Ubuntu. Actually, I had a couple. I went through the whole Linux circuit. I did Mandriva and Mint and
Fedora.
Yeah.
And Debian.
Yep. I landed on Ubuntu. I liked them. And also there was a flavor of it called Ubuntu Studio. They're still around.
Yes.
Tip of the hat to them. That was tailored towards artisans. So if you were doing music, they had like Artador built in. Or if you were a graphic designer like I was, had all your Wacom drivers built in.
That's
so you have to go hunt for them.
And it's great that Ubuntu is still around and still they've grown, and they are pretty much one of the top.
Oh yeah, Canonical, who's the folks that kind of put their spin on Ubuntu and keep it going. Yeah, they're stellar. I mean, they're one of my go-tos. Matter of fact, that netbook that I mentioned that my then girlfriend was rocking, she hated XP on that thing because it was so chuggy on the netbook.
Of course.
So I put on Ubuntu, and it was a screaming machine with it.
And she gave you a big old hug, right?
Absolutely.
There you go.
What I had rocking was that Compaq. I had a Motorola V3 Razr, blue.
Oh, the black Razr.
I had it in blue.
Oh, I would
Sonic
have
blue.
I did have a Razr. Was that before or after the black? I might have gotten that after, and I had a BlackBerry Pearl.
Yep. See, you and I were in the same vein.
Yes.
Like I had the Motorola V3 Razr in blue.
I remember in the Motorola Razr, I forgot about that. And I love the ads. They actually, they nailed it with the slow motion tilting or the 360 view in the TV commercials. And I had to have one, and I got one, which was great because It was sleek. It was black, and I had the Godfather theme as my ringtone.
Oh, that's good.
That's a memory.
Mario Puzo would be proud.
Of course, he's always proud of me. So I remember that vividly. And then I think I had for my text message, I'm not sure where it came from, but it's amazing what comes flooding back when you get something. But I had a text message ringtone that says, "I got a present for you." I don't know what video game that came from, but it was some kind of some like military Sarge guy.
Right.
And it was some kind of WAV file that I was able to connect a USB drive to the Razor.
Yeah, because who's going to pay for a ringtone?
I'm not. And so I'm going to download it off the net and drag it onto my phone because I'm a customizing foo.
Yep.
That's
I had what was it? Not 12 o'clock high. The
Clint Eastwood, Good, Bad, and Ugly.
Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Yes.
I had that
Very
as
good.
my ringtone. But yeah, shortly after that, I got a hand-me-down BlackBerry Pearl, much like yourself.
Yep.
And I used that, and I switched carriers. I was on AT&T and I went to T-Mobile.
Was it singular back then?
Nope, I was on AT&T proper.
Okay, good enough.
And I moved over to T-Mobile, and I loved this one idea that the BlackBerry Pearl on T-Mobile had before anybody else. Do you remember UMA?
I don't.
The ability to call over Wi-Fi. With
Wi-Fi calling?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is that?
Yeah, and now it's like in everything, right? But I thought that was the coolest thing.
I think that's a nice way to look back on things and look how far we've come.
Yep. So on that note, Chris, let's look towards the future. I'm good with the past. I'm ready to close that chapter, and hopefully whatever Apple comes out with, people will love it or hate it.
Mm-hmm.
What are you working on these days?
I am working on my little quiet music project, which
little.
It's 3 episodes. I'm building momentum. I'm figuring out, how do I want to cram things into a 30-minute chunk of ambience.
Can you tell me more about what the quiet music project and its soundscapes are?
No. I would say you must tune in on
Good.
mixcloud.com/TQMP. The Quiet Music Project. I think that's a website. If not, forgive me, folks. But anyway, you can go to quietmusic.net and you'll see all of the episodes streamable from that web browser, whether it's on your phone or on your desktop. So got that going on. I just got done teaching some classes on Google.
Hot dog.
And there were some folks in our little Hamletburg community that just got their minds melted with hours of Google information.
That's melted in a good way.
Melted in a good way, but there's a lot to it. So, I've enjoyed the process for that. And right now I am gearing up for making a presentation at an upcoming conference.
Yeah, I believe I'll be there.
Yes, I'll be there too. And actually...
Yeah, everybody else is going to be there too. So Chris and I have a fun announcement. BPM is going to have its first live audience show.
Live in front of your naked, steaming eyes. We're going to be podcasting live.
Well, I don't know about naked steaming, but...
That's a David Lee Rothism. I've always wanted to go David Lee Roth for a while, but we might lose our clean tag in some cases. So anyway.
Yeah, so stay tuned next week or the week following, actually, because now that I think about when this episode comes out, you'll actually see a live show that'll hit the feed at some point. So it'll have a different sound, different feel, and a very different vibe than the normal BPM Tech.
Yes, we normally have a wonderful conversation between us, but there may be some others that...
Maybe some audience participation?
That is a definite possibility, most definitely. AJ, what are you working on as of late?
Actually, I am backlogged because of the weather. I've had to push some client work and push some other projects because I need to be outside, and I can't do it when it's a balmy 33 degrees. Mm-hmm. But you can follow some of my works that I've been working on Patreon. It's patreon.com/AJ And if you become a Patreon supporter, you can see all the cool stuff behind the scenes. And some of the stuff that I'm working on that isn't for public viewing yet. So my patrons get to see it first before it goes out to the interwebs.
And I am a patron of the Patreon, and I do see the inside scoop on a lot of things, and sometimes it's worth it. In this case, it is worth it to be able to pay some extra money. You're helping out a good cause because AJ's a fine young man, and you get to see a really good inside look into how one can be taking steps on their path to being a professional photographer and image manipulation using computer tools.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought.
Hashtag anti-Adobe.
There you go. So very good.
On that note, So that wraps up for this edition of BPM Tech. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us on iTunes, on the Google Play, on SoundCloud, on Spreaker, or wherever the heck else you podcast. Remember, you can always go to our website at bellinghampodcast.com if you want to take a look at all of the stuff that is BPM Tech. Also, that we have some little gimmies that we do on there, some blog posts from Chris Powell and I on just joint tech coolness that we are working on. We're also, if you're in the Bellingham area, you might be listening to us on
102.3 FM KMRE
Low Power
Community Radio.
And we're on twice a week.
Thursdays at 9 a.m. and Saturdays at 1:30 p.m.
So be sure you tune in either on the air or on the web. We would greatly appreciate it. That wraps it up for this edition. I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. Thanks for hanging with us with a look back in technology and life in Bellingham. We'll see you next time on BPM Tech.